more. You'll be glad you did. I know I am. Ocala Aviation. Call today, 861-7484.
Get it for less at the DIY Home Center outlet. Get top quality real wood cabinets the same or less than the big box stores are selling the cheap stuff. And that's not all. Drywall screws big box stores are $6.47 a pound. At DIY, only $4.99. Plus, DIY has the largest selection of mobile home parts and accessories anywhere. From carpet to doors, get the DIY supplies you need for less. The DIY Home Center outlet. We are your building material closeout store. 2191 Northwest 10th Street, just 2 miles east of I-75.
This is James Snyder inviting you to join me each Sunday morning at 9:30 for Sunday Joy, right here on WOCA 1370.
Here's some good policy from your local agent and Auto Owners Insurance. When your insurance policy comes from us, it comes with something extra, a real person. Don't buy from an insurance company with an 800 number and voicemail menu. Auto Owners Insurance operates exclusively through local independent agencies here to help you with all of your insurance needs 24/7. Now that's good policy. Visit George Mangan Insurance in Ocala today. Go to www.manganinsurance.com.
WWWOCA, WWWOCA.
The new Cricket Wireless on East Silver Springs Boulevard on the corner of Bonnie Heath and State Road 40 is having a grand opening this Saturday. Stop by for the plan with unlimited talk, text, and data for $35 a month after a $5 credit with AutoPay and no silly annual contracts. With over 97% of Americans covered. Plus, the new Cricket Wireless will donate all activation fees this Saturday to Vets Helping Vets. That's the grand opening this Saturday at the new Cricket Wireless on East Silver Springs Boulevard on the corner of Bonnie Heath and State Road 40. The new Cricket Wireless, something to smile about.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 5 minutes after 9 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this morning to The Source, WOCA. Our next guest is going to make you think. I want to tell you a little story. I went to Quebec with my son when he was younger. We went camping. And, of course, in Quebec, they all speak French. And they pretty much all speak English as well. But French is the language of that area. And so we tried really hard to learn, a few phrases, where's the bathroom, what time is dinner?
Mm-hmm. Do you want fries with that?
Whatever. Do you want fries with that? Yeah. Anyway, I was sitting in the, this was at a campground, and I was sitting in the building, I guess, where recreation takes place. And that's also where you would sign in if you were going to be camping and register. And I'm from New York, and I got the New York accent, and I'm sitting there. We were watching a video. That's what we're doing. Sorry, I was trying to think what we were doing. My son and I were watching a video that kind of gave us an overview of the city of Quebec because we were going to be driving around looking at the city the next day. And I see a man come in, and he walks up to the counter, and he doesn't even attempt to speak French. And he kind of is abrupt and a little bit arrogant. Well, no, not a little bit. He was arrogant. Mm-hmm. And I was just so embarrassed because I knew he had a New York accent. So I was embarrassed because here I am, a New York guy, and there's another New York guy. And he doesn't even have the decency to just at least say bonjour. At least say hello in French,
Yes.
And that's the easiest thing to do. But instead, he walks up to the counter, he slaps down his wallet or his credit card or whatever it was. And I was just thinking, oh, man, you got to do that. So when somebody from our own group, whatever it may be, whether it's the group that you belong to, maybe you're a part of an organization. I remember one time I had a story about a Marine who had broken the law of some sort. And somebody called me up and said, why did you have to mention it was a Marine? Why couldn't you just say it was a guy? Mm-hmm. Okay, I didn't have to, I guess, but it was in the report.
Yes.
And okay, so we are embarrassed when people in our own groups do things that are, less than palatable. I mean, we have this whole relationship with black people, white people, and black people that goes back to slavery. Well, it's kind of embarrassing to think that people who were our color, were white, mm-hmm. were owning people who were black. It doesn't even make sense in today's thinking.
Yeah.
But we did at one time. Our next guest happens to be an African-American man. We've had him on before, I think, right?
Yes.
Dr. Alvin Augustus Jones is on the phone. He's the owner of the Paradise Radio Network, so be good to him because we might need a job one day.
That's right.
He's an award-winning producer, a journalist, a speaker, an historian, and he says, some black men are behaving badly. I'm throwing the word some. It doesn't say some. I'm saying some because obviously it's not all. Dr. Jones, what an honor to have you on the show. Good morning, sir.
Well, thank you so very much for having me on. I appreciate this opportunity.
And where are you right now? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C.
So, when you look at the media, the movies and the music and stuff like that, I mean, we've got people behaving badly of every race, everything you can think of. You got people saying nasty things.
Mm-hmm.
That is so true, and it's very unfortunate that that trend is, I guess, exponentially much higher in the African-American community right now, and it's unfortunate.
And do you know that for a fact, or is that just because you're sensitive to it?
Well, it's a fact. I think the hard part is that people don't want to talk about it, or if you talk about it, you're somewhat a bad person for bringing it up. But there's a huge elephant in the room, and my concern is that the strives or the attempts for strives after integration, they seem to be disintegrating at a rapid pace. And if someone doesn't begin to sound the alarm, and I love the analogy that you used earlier, it wasn't that you were offended because you were trying to be the thought police. It's just that there's a certain type of decorum and a certain type of representation that you'd like to see from a person who is a New Yorker.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Thank you for the accent. But do you feel like okay, if I hear that somebody has misbehaved, there was a story the other day about some Americans misbehaving in Rome. They never mentioned the race of these people, but they were Americans. To me, it doesn't matter if they're white, black, or anything.
Hispanic or anything.
It doesn't matter to me because as Americans, I'm embarrassed that an American would deface the Colosseum in Rome.
Yes.
That is so true, but also in this case, right now, because of this situation being contained in certain communities, I'm concerned that we are ignoring it because it's contained, but eventually if we don't begin to address it, it's going to be widespread across America, and I think too often we as Americans are so focused on what happens around the world. There's a gospel song, we need to begin to sweep around our own front door before we try to sweep around others.
Do you think that the leaders like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, do you think that they're a part of the cause too by always bringing up the past and not wanting to move forward?
Well, let me put it this way. I just think there needs to be more voices at the table. I thank God for civil rights leaders. I thank God for black intellectuals and professors. But we need to bring business people who are productive, who are creating economic opportunity, because at the end of the day, when we look at these various stories, it's because a lot of these young individuals do not have an economic solution. So let's keep them at the table, but we need to add more voices to the table instead of the voices that are currently there because they are not effective.
Yeah, I think that's true. And on a local level, I mean, right here we've had right now we don't have a black police chief. We did though, and he was outstanding and a great role model.
Excellent.
No, I mean, not that we're not picking on the current chief, by the way. Just I don't want anybody to think that. But we have quite a few leaders in our community who are black, and a great representative, and the kids in the schools too. I mean, you see, the kids are interesting because they're trying so hard to be liked, and so they get into and we make a mistake as older people. We make a mistake looking at clothing, looking at tattoos, looking at piercings, and automatically thinking that means they're a bad person, and they're not necessarily.
Not necessarily, but it screams out exactly what is going on. Again, when I define myself as a pre-integration person because there was not just a culture based upon the color of skin. There were certain mores. For example, we believed in snitching. This generation doesn't. My generation believes in accountability. This generation doesn't. My generation knew that racism exists. It's like apple pie in America, but it was never an impediment to success. This generation does. So we got to begin to say, what is this generation thinking? What are they really saying with their pants being down? And begin to address it not from a perspective of criticism. I want this generation to succeed.
Yeah, that pants down thing, that's a weird thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't get that at all.
There's the music, too. They always call it the gangsta rap or something like that? Why is it that that's being so embraced?
Well, again, I'm a First Amendment person, a Second Amendment person in terms of free speech. Again, I have no problem with it, but if you listen to the average African-American radio station, they do not do any kind of news, whether it's liberal or conservative. There's no information. It's pretty much creating a lifestyle, and so all I'm saying is have the gangster rap, but also add other types of music. The art of R&B music, Temptations, Motown, which is a part of the American fabric. Think about this, and I'm asking someone to give me an answer to this question that I've been asking all over America. Since integration, except for hip-hop, what has this African-American generation created as an invention?
Oh, there you go.
I don't know.
That's a good question.
I don't know. But,
and the reason why I bring that up is that, in the worst times of African-Americans in Jim Crow North or Jim Crow South, African-Americans have been able to produce something. If you only have certain voices at the table, it creates anger and frustration and the lack of productivity. And if you begin to look and examine, not from a perspective of being criticizing, I want to see this segment of society producing, just like right now our president, whether you agree or disagree, is trying to say, okay, we have an immigration situation. Let's make this segment a contributing part of society. I'm saying is unless we begin to examine this society and say, hey, what's going on, we're not going to produce citizens who are going to contribute to the fabric of America.
One of the strongholds in America to religion, Christianity specifically, is the black community. I think some of the strongest churches here. I mean, we have some strong white churches, so gosh, that wasn't even going to be a true statement. But I think compared to Europe, we have a very strong and a church-going community, both black and white. Let me just put it that way. So, and you would think with that we wouldn't have all the problems, but we still do have the problems.
Well, one of the things that is interesting is the fact is that we have churches in great numbers, but not churches in terms of the quality of life and the quality of accountability. Again, I thank God for my friends in your market, and I love some of my friends in that market. But we have these huge buildings, but we created greater leaders and greatest contributors when we had the storefront. It's now more about the size of the church than the size of the church inside of the individual, and that is what's being lost right now. And so even though we have these great edifices, I remember when we changed, we were in a storefront house, but when we became an edifice, in a chapel, a temple of God, everything changed because it became more about the building and the stuff instead of the stuff inside of the people.
Wow, you're a smart guy. Very well said. We need to take a little break, Doctor, and then we'll be right back. Dr. Alvin Augustus Jones is our guest up in Washington, D.C. He's the owner of the Paradise Radio Network, and he's expressing his thoughts that he wants to see something change in the black community, especially black men behaving badly is the topic. We'll take a break and be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Today, looking humid with some sunshine. A couple showers, mainly in the afternoon, a high of 81 to 85. Then tonight, some spotty evening showers, otherwise becoming partly cloudy, a low of 64 to 68. Tomorrow, intervals of clouds and sunshine, a stray shower and humid with a high of 80 to 85. And then for the end of the work week on Friday, variable clouds, a shower, and a high of 79 to 83. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Evan Duffy.
Cookies, 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 cookies.
When you want something special and fun for any occasion, get cookies. That's right. The Great American Cookie Company in the Paddock Mall, Ocala will make a delicious, fun-filled delight just for you. You might notice that I said fun and delicious more than once. That's because I can't say it enough. The next time you're at the mall, be sure and stop by or call 352-237-2557 to place your order.
Cookies, cookies,
Yum.
cookies, cookies. We go cookie eating cookies.
The Great American Cookie Company.
Hi, Danny Warfel here. Get moving with Florida Credit Union's fast and easy loan approval process.
Let Florida Credit Union start up a new car loan for you today. No more waiting, hassles, or stop signs. You can even apply online. With a strong financial team behind you, you can enjoy great rates and fast approvals.
It's all about personalized service and a streamlined process.
Florida Credit Union, connecting your money to your life.
Real estate is the largest and most personal investment that any of us will ever make.
Be sure to tune in Tuesdays at 10 a.m. when Bob Kennedy, owner of Berkshire Hathaway Home Team Realty, will be answering your questions and discussing real estate. So remember, that's Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Call 622-9622 with your questions. It pays to be an informed buyer or seller. This is news you can use from Berkshire Hathaway Home Team Realty and your friends here at WOCA. All right, 19 minutes after 9 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. On the phone is our guest, Dr. Alvin Augustus Jones, and he does a couple of radio shows. He owns the Paradise Radio Network, WCBQ AM 1340, WHNC AM 890 in Greater Raleigh, North Carolina. Internet portal, dralvin.com. And has worked for NBC, ABC, UPN, Clear Channel, and other major media entities. And he's on the show with us this morning to talk about something he thinks needs to be improved in black culture, especially black males.
Yes.
So black females aren't part of this?
They are, but right now, as we noticed, a lot of the challenges recently in Minnesota, a young African-American man was unfortunately killed. And so I'm very much concerned with that particular segment at risk. But yeah, it's women and men. But primarily, I'm concerned about the youth of America and the direction that they're going or not going.
Is the news reporting those kinds of stories accurately, or do you think they're sensationalizing some stories, and is it sending the wrong message?
Well, I think we have found out in America that racism is very profitable. The classic example would be concerning the cable news network that was getting ready to tank, and then O.J. Simpson gave him a gift in terms of that particular situation. So since that period of time, you've noticed a spike in the discussion. Back in the day, if you went to journalism school, we were taught not to necessarily describe the race or the color or the gender or sexual orientation of a person who was an allegedly apprehended. But nowadays, we realize that it sells. There are many, many more persons who are killing somebody of the same race, or black police officers killing other blacks. But when there is a racial component, whether it's actual or alleged or believed, it is sensational. And that's very unfortunate here in America.
Okay, and when that happens, then revenge starts making its way into people's minds, and that might actually be a snowball effect.
That is so true. I mean, black folk kill each other at a rate of 4,000 or 5,000 persons per year, okay? But if one white person kills a black person for whatever reason, good or bad, I'm not there, so I can't assume what happened. All of a sudden now, we got to do something about it. And that is really tragic, that when other blacks kill each other at thousands upon thousands, there's no demonstration, there's no marches, but let one white person be involved in some form, now there's uprising and anger and now riots. And I'm very much concerned about that attitude.
Do you feel like an apology was never made to the black community for the sins of our past?
Well, I mean, I think there's several things going on here. First of all, racism is a part of America, okay? And I think it's kind of naive to kind of feel that it's going to change. I think the issue is, and in fact, I would rather know that you're racist, because then I can identify, I know who you are. I think when you don't know where a person's perspective is, much more dangerous than they are. The issue becomes, unless African Americans begin to have their own businesses, we are not hiring our own children, so we're expecting another culture to do that. And so the problem needs to be several-fold. It's economic. And if we begin to hire our own, employ our own, then we don't have to worry about whether or not another culture does so. So when we look at racism in America, we can't change it through legislation. And in fact, this generation has done more to try to help and improve the situation. But if there's anger and the discussion of what happened 2,000 years ago or hundreds of years ago, that anger stays within the community.
Well, I don't like the thought that we're two cultures. I don't like the thought that because you're African American, your culture is completely separate from mine. I think as Americans, we're the same culture. And I know what you're saying, though. The reality is that it is separated. I mean, we've got railroad tracks in Ocala, and you can pretty much say, well, if you live on this side, you're probably black. If you live on that side, you're probably white, which is kind of weird. Because when I look out the window, we broadcast from the local mall. when I look out the window when this mall is open, you see a lot of young people that are interracial couples.
Yes.
So I don't know if maybe there is going to be some changes because that has changed, and maybe not in my lifetime, but maybe in a generation or two. I don't know. Do you think so?
Well, I'm not sure. I never did define myself when I came on the broadcast as being African American. I never say that. I'm talking about an African American subject, not because I'm an African American, because I'm not sure what that means anymore. When you define something, you confine it. So I don't define myself as an African American. I define myself as an American. My kids go to Howard University, but also one goes to Yale. So we don't see color as it relates to a lot of things. We do know it exists, but we never use it as an impediment to anything we want to achieve here in America.
Do you think that the U.S. government is sometimes responsible for that because of all of the social programs that make it easier for people just to have handouts than work? Because on the other end of the coin also, everybody, no matter what ethnicity a person is, you have tax credits for owned businesses, women-owned businesses, majority-owned businesses. So do you think that the social welfare problems with people just getting handouts, that initiative isn't there anymore to work?
Not really. The government gives handouts to everybody. I mean, they give that to the rich and poor. It's just that you need to have an accountant to make sure you get yours. So I don't do that. But there is a very powerful story. There's a book called Patient Grooms out of Richmond. And a lot of times what the government attempts to do to help people, not necessarily in the scenario you gave, does hinder and does hurt. And I think a lot of times if people are constantly being classified by their race or constantly being defined by that, I think it hinders us from becoming unified.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It seems since 1955, when there was an attempt through the Board of Education, when African American got rights, then women got rights, gay got rights. It seems like we as a nation had been more concerned about individual rights instead of collective wealth and collective things. Except since 9/11, when has we come together as a nation over any type of topic? And we don't seem to do that anymore as a nation.
You are so wise.
Well, yes. When I look at TV or listen to the radio, it sounds like that. When I'm in my own world, though, when I'm in, Robert and I do music. So if we're in a recording studio, the musicians can be black, white. The whole studio can be full of black musicians, except we can be the only white ones in there sometimes. And in sports, it seems like that's true too. So I guess my own world, I don't see it as much. I see it on TV. I don't see it in my own world. And of course, I have a small world, but. But anyway, I'm sure that you're right, though. I mean, I see it everywhere. You have some solutions, though, that you propose. One is use an acronym called royalty.
Yes, what we want to do is, I'll go down real quick because I only have a couple of minutes here. First of all, it's called royalty. We have to create redemption. You can't have 70% of a segment in the penal system in some form. And when they want to do right, they can't get a job because of the background check. O is for ownership. We can't just talk about jobs. We need to create wealth where the wealth stays in that family for generations so that generation can take care of itself. Youthful exuberance. If you look at a lot of these young individuals, they're like a hotel with a vacancy sign. There's no more play. There's no more hope. Athletic compensation. It's one of the most egregious things America does is the athletic situation, especially with basketball and football. Anyone who says they're getting an education obviously never played sports. You cannot play sports at the high level at these college levels, and they need to be honest with these kids. They're not there going to school. They're there as an economic component, and they need to be compensated in some form. So if I'm a young person who's doing the right thing, and then I go to school, we're talking 8,000 to 12,000 African-American young men and women who are in this segment who do not get any food or compensation. That is very egregious. The ESPNs of the world, the Foxes of the world are making money off these individuals.
Absolutely.
Literacy, not only financial, but also literacy in terms of how to deal with the police. When I was a child, I was taught how to confront police because confronting police was a part of the daily fabric. These young people do not know how to do that. We need to teach them. Leadership training. And the last one is yet, despite these things, advance. We got to teach these kids resilience. You may be discriminated because you're cute. You may be discriminated because you're handsome or you're
Right.
tall or whatever. And this generation has been taught because you are black, you can't succeed. And they need to understand everybody has a Rubicon. Everyone has a bridge to cross, and you can cross that bridge through resilience.
All right, very smart. And gosh, it's my fault that we didn't even get to that. That was such an important part of this interview. I want to make sure that our listeners can look you up. My first question, do you have a book?
We have several books. One is called Royalty Without a Future. We have one called Wealth Shift. And then I have a book called Dr. Alvin, Book of Ponderations. And all those are available on Amazon, or they can go to my website, dralvin.com.
Okay, dralvin.com. And the books are on Amazon, et cetera?
Yes, sir.
The other places. Well, thank you for being on the air with us. And do you do a radio show in addition to owning the radio network? I wasn't clear about that.
Yes, sir. I'm on every morning in my radio station there in North Carolina, and then at night I'm on CBS Radio here in Washington, D.C.
What are you doing right now on the air? Are you running a tape or something?
Yes, sir. The magic of the tape.
Well, thank you for bringing this topic up. It is something that will make America better if we can figure out, or make all humanity better if we can figure out a way to live. But I think in my own little world, I don't see this. We got to make my world, I guess, the rest of the world like my world. How about that?
I think so.
How about that?
I think
I love
so.
what you're saying, Doctor.
You are so wise, Doctor.
dralvin.com is the website. And please come back anytime you would like, Doctor. Thank you for being on the air with us today.
Thank you so very much, and may this be your best day ever.
Oh, thank you.
Wow, except for tomorrow.
Yours too.
I want tomorrow to be a little bit. All right, we'll be right back.
This is a Fox News Alert. I'm Lillian Wu. Rescuers fearing the worst in a military chopper crash off the Florida Panhandle.
I can unfortunately confirm that we have had some human remains and debris from the aircraft that have washed ashore. I am not necessarily confirming that all 11 members of that air crew and Marine group are confirmed dead, but we have in fact had some human remains wash ashore in that area.
Andrew Borland, spokesman at Glenn Air Force Base, talking to Fox News. The service members missing since last night, weather conditions making the search very difficult. A first from lawmakers in Utah, a bill
that would allow death by firing squad if execution drugs aren't available. The main drug's been in short supply. It's manufactured in Europe, and companies there have refused to sell it. The state's Republican governor has not yet indicated if he'll sign it.
Fox Radio's Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News. We report, you decide.
Superstorms, road closures, flooding, airports snowed in. If you travel for work like I do, news like that can ruin your whole day. It did mine, until I discovered Citrix GoToMeeting online meeting software. With GoToMeeting, you can meet from anywhere using your computer, tablet, or smartphone. No expensive travel required. And with HD video, you simply turn on your webcam and it's just like being in the same room, which means you can stay productive no matter what the news brings.
Visit GoToMeeting.com and start our free 30-day trial.
What's the secret to great business trips? Choice Hotels, where you'll find everything a business traveler needs, like a generous rewards program. And right now, choose Choice twice for 2 separate trips and get a night at no price. Stay for business at Choice Hotels and book now at choicehotels.com. Great endings begin here. Free night based on an 8,000-point Choice Privileges Reward night at over 1,500 hotels. Valid 2/19/15 through 4/22/15. Requires registration and 2 separate qualifying stays. Other terms and conditions apply. Details at choicehotels.com.
So you need a credit card, but how do you choose? Let's compare the big banks to Florida Credit Union. They have rewards, and we do too. They have customer service. Hello, 24/7. They have celebrities. Hey, Danny. But with Florida Credit Union, there's no annual fee, no liability for fraudulent charges, and no 22% interest rates. Choose Florida Credit Union, and you'll not only have a great credit card, but you'll have the support and personal touch that the big banks, well, can't touch. Florida Credit Union, connecting your money to your life. Federally insured by the NCUA.
You've got a garden and we've got a show for you called You've Got a Garden with your host, Master